Welcome back to the final part of my three-part series, which I already covered both Cartoon Network and Disney XD. If this is your first time watching, don't worry because this part is entirely different as opposed to the other two. So, enough being said about that, let's get right into the list. First up is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but the 2012 version. And considering other really good adaptations of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or TMNT for short, such examples are Rise of the TMNT, which in hindsight is really good because of how incredible the animation and fight choreography is, Tales of the TMNT, which is the newest adaptation of the franchise, or any of the older versions, though to me, the 2012 version is my favourite because of how well the fights actually are, as well as how they managed to incorporate expressive and overdramatic anime-like facial expressions on a 3D cartoon series. Also, the 2012 version has some of my favourite versions of many of these characters, like Leonardo, who is more witty and disciplined, or Raphael, who is just a full-on crash out. Next up is Legend of Korra. Now, I didn't know whether to include this show on the list because, for those who don't know, Legend of Korra is actually the sequel to Avatar The Last Airbender, but it is what it is. Anyways, keeping on track, there are a lot of things I actually liked about Legend of Korra. For example, how the world was adapted from Avatar The Last Airbender and evolved with more advanced technology and variations of the bending styles, as well as a lot of the characters themselves, including Korra herself. Now, a lot of people don't like Korra because they feel as if she doesn't live up to the expectations of a good avatar, but that's something I actually really like about her character. Someone who is born with living up to the expectations of avatars that came before her, but at the same time is still human, because some avatars are bound to be better than others. It's just the way things are. Now, by no means is the show itself perfect. I personally feel as if the show definitely gets more hate than it deserves, so I can understand where it comes from. You have the whole back and forth love triangle, toxic relationships, giant spiritual kaijus, or giant robot fights, but despite all its flaws, I do believe this show in a way to be a well-intentioned adaptation of an amazing franchise like the Avatar series. Moving on, we have SpongeBob SquarePants. Do I need to explain further? It's SpongeBob. Everyone knows who SpongeBob is. You know, one of Nickelodeon's most iconic shows. Growing up with this franchise just felt so surreal, and every moment in SpongeBob was so enjoyable to watch. I remember how fond I was when I came home from school and just watched SpongeBob. Well, amongst other shows too, but this is about SpongeBob, so those shows don't really matter. All I'm going to say is that I'm grateful for how SpongeBob shaped my childhood, but despite the fact that I've grown up from the series, I can't help but always have a place for this franchise, no matter how old I get. Anyways, in the number 2 spot is Invader Zim. I can't say what it is exactly I love about this show. I mean, at first glance, it actually looks pretty weird and off-putting, but once you actually watch the show, that's exactly what it is. It's not trying to be pleasant or appealing, it's trying to be unusual in a sense. Plus, I really love the whole premise of an aliens invasion as a kids show, hence the name, and a lot of the characters themselves, as well as the humour, which can I say is just amazing by the way, but despite the movie, it never really got a proper conclusion, which is a shame. But regardless, I generally think that this show is by far the funniest and most underrated one on this list. Last but not least, this one may not come as a shock, but in the number 1 spot is Fanboy and Chum Chum.
Man, I got too much money on this game, dog. Too much money on this game. Man.
No, I'm kidding. Avatar The Last Airbender. Obviously. This show is literally one of, if not my favourite cartoon of all time. With how cohesive the story is, the realistic depictions of war and grief, alongside a roster of relatable and engaging characters. But keeping on track, the character development is very notable within the series, as well as the philosophy and real-world inspirations for the series, combining multiple different cultures that just meshes so well within the world itself. But unfortunately, that's the end of the video and to my 3-part series, so feel free to let me know your favourite shows down below. And whilst you're at it, Go ahead and check out my other 2 cartoon rankings if you haven't already. But as always, I appreciate you guys for watching, and until next time.